This video presents the fyne Diagram Widget, an extension of the fyne cross-platform GUI toolkit that enables diagrams to be used as user interfaces for both viewing and editing information. Using a diagram as an interface can be challenging. The coding is complex, and while there are capable libraries out there, they typically have license costs associated with both the initial development and the subsequent distribution of the product, which makes it somewhat awkward to use these libraries, particularly in research settings. So the goal of the Diagram Widget is to provide a rich set of capabilities for building diagram-based user interfaces, and do so in such a way that we have both public licensing and cross-platform capabilities. Here we have an example of an application built using the fyne toolkit with the diagram widgets. It has the typical layout of an interactive development environment with a view of the data in the upper left, the properties of a selected element in the right, and properties of the selected element in the lower left, and some diagrams on the right. Now at present we don't have any diagrams here, so we'll create a new domain, and in that domain we're going to add a diagram. And so now we have a diagram on the right hand side, and we can begin to use the toolbar here to put elements in the diagram. So here's an element. Notice they're automatically named. Now one of the hallmarks of this type of application that we're after is that we can edit information wherever we see it. So here's the element. There's an element name here, and I can edit. Let's just call this concept here, this is a house. And notice not only did I edit it here, but it showed up here as well, and in the tree on the left hand side. So it doesn't matter where we click, so I can go here and wherever we see information we can edit it. So this gives us flexibility in our design here. Now each of these areas here is essentially a window or a view into an underlying data structure. So in the tree widget on the upper left here, we have a hierarchical view of the classes or objects that are in that data structure. If we select one, we can see the individual data elements of it. And again, in the diagram, we see a diagrammatic representation containing some of the information. So I can actually create a second diagram here. And diagram 2 doesn't initially have anything in it, but I can drag the existing concept that we just defined into that diagram and drop it. And so now I have two diagrams, both showing the same object. And once again, it doesn't matter where we edit the information, it gets updated everywhere. So this is one of the big differences between the Visio style of diagram without an underlying shared model and what we typically want in this kind of application. Okay, so let's add another concept here. Let's add a room. Let's call it a kitchen. And in our notation, we'd like to be able to say that the kitchen is part of the house. And so we've got a notation here that's similar to but not the same as UML. So we have an ownership relation here. And now instead of just dropping a node in, we're going to do a link. So notice as I've got the link selected, the elements of the diagram that are allowed to participate in that link highlight as you put the mouse over them. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to click in the kitchen, and then drag up, and now the house is highlighted, and I let go, and now we see this relationship here that indicates that the kitchen is part of the house. Now the diagram widget that I was mentioning is actually providing these nodes here. It's also providing the mechanism for doing this link connection with the highlighting of the connection areas and all that. That's all built into the toolkit, and we'll see more of that in a minute when I show just more specifics of the diagram widget itself. Now back to the diagram widget. Each of these diagrams actually is a separate instance of the of a diagram widget. So we've got this diagram that contains both of these elements and the relationship. This diagram only has the house, but we can extend the functionality here. This is a right mouse that we've added, and I'll show the concepts recursively. And now what I've done is basically walk the data structure and any children of the house I've included in diagram 2 as well as diagram 1. So these are truly independent. We're not modifying the data structures on the left. We're simply creating different views. So again, in diagram 2, there's no requirement that we actually show the kitchen, so we can delete the view of that concept. And now we have two different representations in the two different diagrams. So what we're looking at here is the demo that comes with the diagram widget itself. So this is in the fyne extensions. And here we see a number of nodes and links. Nodes, the wrapper and the node, the box around the edge, and the ability to connect to the links is a built-in part of the widget toolkit. But the content of the nodes is entirely up to the user. So here we see a node that has 4 buttons in it, and the buttons are actually hooked up to do some functions in the back end. So when I click the up button, this node moves up and down and left and right. So we get things that actually do things. Nodes can contain any type of canvas object. So this is a simple piece of text here in node 0. Node 1 has a button. Node 2 has a bunch of buttons organized together in a container. Node 5 here again is simple text. Nodes can be resized. So we just select it and grab the handles, and we can do resizing. There's a limit. You can't shrink below the minimum size of the content, but that's what we would expect. Links are also have extra information on them. So in a link, you can add decorations to the ends of a link. So here we have 2 arrows connected to one end of a link and 2 more connected to the other end. And we can also do decorations in the middle of the link. And so as we move the nodes around, the links remain connected. We can also have floating text associated with 3 different positions on the links. Here, this is a text that's associated with the middle of the link. And there's not a direct connection, but if the link moves around, the floating text moves around with it. So we keep the spatial association there. Here on link 3, we actually have 3 pieces of floating text. The source role one here is associated with this end of the link. The target role is associated with this end of the link, and this label link 3 is associated with the middle. Here we also see an example of a graphic annotation that's been added to the middle of the link. So again, as we move these around, the text labels remain in their same relative location. You can actually move the text label around if you don't like the actual positioning. You can right now I've got the default background on for these labels, but you can turn that off and make it transparent as well. As with the other things, we can edit the text where we see it. So the whole idea of the WYSIWYG edit what you see, it carries over into the links as well. Now links are a little bit different than your typical node and arc, because in a node arc scenario, links can only connect nodes. But there are times in some of these graphic notations where you want to be able to connect a link to another link. And so I can grab the end of the link here, and notice when I move here, see the little green X that pops up there? That says it's allowed to connect here. That allowed bit is controlled by a callback that you as the application designer can define. The default one that comes from the toolkit says any connection area is acceptable. But in the previous example that I showed you, there were some significant restrictions on which kinds of links could connect to which kinds of elements. So let me put this guy back where it was before. Come on, highlight. That's weird. There we go. And so this link right here starts at the middle of link 4 and connects to node 5. If you drag in the background here, you can move the whole set of concepts around, or graphical elements. Scrolling is automatic, so if I make this too big, we automatically get scroll bars, and then I can put this back up in the corner where it belongs. So we have scrolling that can accommodate large diagrams. Let's see if I forgot anything here. Oh, so the implementation here actually has an automatic layout algorithm in it. Not automatically initiated, you have to manually initiate it. So if I click on this button, I'll get one step of the layout, and I'll click it again, I get another step. Or down here, it just runs the algorithm to completion here. And so it lays out the whole thing with this is a Spring-based layout algorithm. But you can add your own layout algorithms to your applications as appropriate. So there's considerable customization possible in the diagram widget. There are a bunch of callbacks listed here that you can use essentially to inform the rest of your application of activity in the diagram widget, so that you can execute appropriate functionality in the rest of your application. You can also extend the node and link classes to add your own functionality to them. For more information, you can use these links to find the fyne toolkit itself, the fyne extensions, and the active CRL example that I showed you. That was the application that I showed you at the beginning. You can also find these links in the description that goes along with this video. Thank you for watching.